The massive crystal chamber on Zentari Prime buzzed with nervous energy as dozens of alien species gathered for their most important meeting of the cycle. Representatives from across the galaxy had traveled here to discuss which new worlds their people could claim as homes. Admiral Thexkar stood at the center of the room, his green scales catching the light from the floating holographic displays. His long tail swished behind him as he pressed buttons on his control panel. Suddenly, the air filled with spinning images of planets and star systems. "These are the worlds we have found," he announced in his deep, growling voice. "Many show good signs for our people to live on." The other aliens leaned forward in their seats. There were tall, thin creatures with 4 arms, short, furry beings with big eyes and floating jellyfish-like entities that glowed softly in the dim light. All of them hoped to hear about new homes for their growing populations. Thexkar pointed to a beautiful green and brown planet. "This world has perfect air and good soil. The crystalline collective could build great cities here." The crystal beings hummed with pleasure at this news. He moved to another planet, this one red and dusty. The insectoid hives would find this desert world perfect for their underground colonies. Commander Veltara clicked her mandibles happily, her compound eyes reflecting the red light. But then something changed. The holographic display shifted to show a series of blue planets. These worlds sparkled like jewels, covered in vast oceans that stretched from horizon to horizon. White clouds swirled above endless waters. The entire chamber fell silent. Every alien in the room stared at the blue worlds with wide eyes. Some began to shake. Others made worried sounds in their own languages. "No," whispered the delegate from Skyreach, his colorful feathers standing on end. "Not the water worlds." Commander Veltara stood up quickly, her 6 legs clicking on the crystal floor. "Admiral, surely you do not suggest we consider these death traps?" Thexkar's scales turned, a darker shade of green. "Of course not, Commander. These worlds are here only to mark them as forbidden." An old alien with wrinkled skin and sad eyes spoke up. "My people, the Zephyrians, learned this lesson long ago. We sent 3 great fleets to explore Aquatilia 7. It was a beautiful world, covered in blue oceans that seemed so peaceful from space. The room grew even quieter. Everyone knew this story, but they listened anyway. Our brave explorers put on their best pressure suits and dove into those waters," the old alien continued. "But the deeper they went, the more the water pressed against them. The pressure was so strong that it crushed their ships like paper. We found their suits later, squeezed down to the size of small boxes. All 3 fleets gone forever." A shiver ran through the crowd. The floating jellyfish delegate pulsed with worried colors. "The ethereal collective tried to use our energy, forms to explore a water world. We thought we could float through the liquid like we float through air, but the water was too thick, too heavy. It trapped our energy and nearly destroyed us." The bird-like creature from Skyreach ruffled his feathers, nervously. "My people rule the skies. We can fly faster and higher than any other species, but what good are wings when most of a world is buried under kilometers of crushing water? We tried to build floating cities, but the storms on those worlds are terrible. Waves as tall as mountains destroyed everything we built." More and more, aliens shared their stories. The rock people told of how water dissolved their stone bodies. The flame beings spoke of how water put out their life fires. The metal creatures described how water made their bodies rust and fall apart. "These ocean worlds are cursed," declared Counselor Zethmore, his crystal body ringing like a bell. "They look beautiful from space, but they are traps that kill anyone foolish enough to land on them." Admiral Thexkar nodded grimly. "This is why we gathered today, to make sure no one makes the same mistakes again." He pressed another button, and bright red warning symbols appeared over each water world. "By the power of the Galactic Council," he announced, "all worlds with more than 50% water coverage are now marked as prohibited zones. No species may attempt to colonize them. No exploration missions will be approved. These worlds are to be avoided at all costs." The assembled aliens clicked, chirped, and hummed their agreement. The crystal beings rang like musical instruments. The insect creatures clicked their approval, Everyone seemed relieved that these dangerous worlds would be kept away from their people. The warning beacons will be placed within the month. Thexkar continued. All ships will be programmed to avoid these systems. Our children will learn to fear the blue worlds just as we do. As the meeting ended and the aliens began to leave, none of them noticed the small ship hiding in the shadows of the asteroid belt at the edge of the system. The human vessel Cousteau had been watching and recording everything. On board the ship, Captain Park Min-soo turned to his crew with a strange smile. Did you hear that? They think water worlds are impossible to live on. His science officer, Dr. Kim Yoon-ji, laughed softly. Should we tell them that our home planet is mostly water? The captain shook his head. Not yet. Let's see what opportunities this fear of theirs might create for us. 3 weeks after the Galactic Council's meeting, something unexpected happened. A human ship requested permission to dock at Centauri Prime. The aliens had heard of humans before, but they rarely came to official council meetings. Most species considered humans to be a young, unimportant race from a small blue planet. Captain Lee Dong-min walked into the crystal chamber wearing a neat blue uniform. Behind him came 2 other humans, a woman with kind eyes named Dr. Kim So-ra, and a tall man called Engineer Park Jin-woo. The aliens stared at these strange creatures with their soft skin and tiny eyes. Respected members of the Galactic Council, Captain Lee said with a polite bow, we come from Earth with an important request. Admiral Thexkar's green scales rippled with curiosity. Speak, human. What brings your young species to our council? Lee pressed a button on a small device and holographic images filled the air. The aliens gasped as they saw the official documents floating before them. We formally request colonization rights to 12 worlds that you have marked as prohibited zones. The chamber erupted in shocked sounds. The insect creatures clicked wildly. The bird people squawked in alarm. The crystal beings rang like broken bells. Impossible, shouted Commander Veltara, her 6 legs carrying her forward quickly. Human, do you not understand? These are water worlds. They are death traps that have killed thousands of our best explorers. Captain Lee remained calm. We understand your concerns, Commander, but we believe these worlds hold great promise for our people. Counselor Zethmore's crystal body flashed angry red colors. Young human, your species has only just learned to travel between stars. You cannot possibly understand the dangers that await on those cursed worlds. The pressure alone would turn your bones to powder. Dr. Kim So-ra stepped forward with a gentle smile. Honored counselor, may we show you something about our home world? Before anyone could object, she activated her own holographic display. The aliens watched in amazement as images of Earth appeared in the air. They saw vast blue oceans exactly like the ones on the Forbidden Worlds. But these oceans were full of life and activity. This is our home, So-ra explained simply. Earth is 71% water. We have lived with the oceans for our entire history. The hologram showed human children playing on beaches, swimming in the waves without any protective suits. It showed great ships sailing across the surface of the seas. Then the images changed to show something that made every alien in the room gasp. Humans were diving deep underwater, swimming down into the dark depths without fear. The display showed submarines, metal ships that traveled completely underwater, carrying humans safely through the crushing depths that had killed so many alien explorers. This cannot be real, whispered the old Zephyrian delegate. No creature can survive in such crushing water without protection. Engineer Park Jin-woo spoke up, his voice full of excitement. But we do more than survive, sir. We have built entire cities under the water. The hologram showed amazing underwater bases with humans living and working inside them, surrounded by the very water that other species feared so much. The chamber fell silent as the aliens tried to understand what they were seeing. The images showed human scientists studying strange fish in the deepest parts of Earth's oceans. It showed workers building structures on the ocean floor. Most shocking of all, it showed humans swimming alongside massive sea creatures that looked just as dangerous as anything on the Forbidden Worlds. How is this possible? Asked the floating jellyfish delegate, pulsing with confused colors. Captain Lee smiled. Water is not our enemy. It is where life began on our world. We learned to respect it, to understand it, and to work with it instead of fighting against it. Commander Veltara's compound eyes studied the images carefully. But the pressure, human. How do you survive the crushing weight of all that water? Park Jin-woo's hologram showed human technology that the aliens had never imagined. Special suits that could protect humans even in the deepest trenches. Ships with hulls that could bend and flex instead of breaking under pressure. Most amazing, of all humans who could actually breathe underwater using special equipment. We have spent thousands of years learning from the water, Jin-woo explained. Every time the ocean challenged us, we found a new way to meet that challenge. The bird delegate from Skyreach shook his head in disbelief. Even if you can survive in the water, these worlds have storms that would destroy any surface structures. Doctor. Sora's hologram changed to show floating cities that rose and fell with the waves, and underwater cities that were completely protected from any storm. We learned long ago that fighting the water never works. But if you learn to move with it, to become part of it, then the water becomes your friend. Admiral Thexkar stared at the humans for a long moment. His voice was quiet when he finally spoke. Your species continues to surprise us, but surely even you cannot imagine the true horrors that live in the depths of those forbidden worlds. Captain Lee's eyes sparkled with excitement rather than fear. Respected Admiral, on our world we have a saying. The deeper you go, the more wonders you find. We would like the chance to discover what wonders await us on these 12 worlds. The council members looked at each other nervously. By galactic law, they had to grant any reasonable colonization request, but they were certain these brave but foolish humans would be dead within months. Very well, Thexmore announced sadly. The colonies are yours. May the stars have mercy on your souls. The massive colony ship Mariana hung in space like a silver jewel against the backdrop of stars. Below it, the planet Kepler 438c spun slowly, its surface covered in endless blue oceans that sparkled under the light of its alien sun. Huge storm clouds swirled across the water, creating patterns that looked both beautiful and terrifying. Dr. Choi Min-ho pressed his face against the viewing window of the smaller ship that would take them down to the planet's surface. He had dreamed of this moment for years. As the team's lead marine biologist, he knew more about ocean life than almost anyone else on Earth. But even he felt nervous as he looked down at this alien water world. Are you ready for this? Asked Chief Engineer Han Yu-jin, checking the controls of their submarine one more time. The Challenger Deep was humanity's most advanced underwater exploration vessel, built specially for this mission. Its hull was made of materials that could bend without breaking, and its systems were designed to work even under crushing pressure. I've been ready my whole life, Min-ho replied, but his voice shook just a little. Though I have to admit, this is different from anything we've done on Earth. Dr. Song Hai-wan floated over to join them. As the team's expert on strange life forms, she would be responsible for studying whatever creatures they found in these alien waters. The orbital scans show life signs everywhere, she said excitedly. This ocean is full of living things we've never seen before. The Challenger Deep separated from the mothership and began its descent toward the planet's surface. As they entered the atmosphere, the small submarine shook and rattled. Through the windows, they could see thick clouds rushing past them. Lightning flashed in the distance, lighting up the storm clouds in brilliant colors. The atmospheric readings are normal, reported Yu-jin, watching his instruments carefully. The air is actually very similar to Earth's. But look at those storms. Massive hurricanes swirled across the ocean surface below them. Waves as tall as buildings crashed against each other, creating fountains of water that reached up toward the clouds. Any normal alien ship would have been torn apart by these storms, but the Challenger Deep was built to handle much worse conditions. Taking us down, Yu-jin announced as they hit the water's surface. The submarine sliced through the waves like a knife, barely noticing the storm raging above. Almost immediately, everything changed. The violent surface world disappeared, replaced by a realm of strange beauty. The water around them glowed with soft, colorful light. Millions of tiny creatures floated past their windows, each one shining like a small star. Look at that, whispered Haewon, pointing to a group of jellyfish-like creatures drifting nearby. But these weren't like any jellyfish from Earth. They were huge, each one the size of a small building, and they pulsed with rainbow colors that shifted and changed as they moved. Minho activated the recording equipment, capturing everything they saw. The bioluminescence is incredible. These creatures are using light to communicate with each other. As they descended deeper, more amazing sights appeared. Schools of fish swam past them, but these fish looked like they were made of living crystal. Their scales caught the light from the glowing creatures and scattered it in all directions, creating underwater auroras that painted the water in brilliant colors. Pressure readings are climbing fast, Eugen reported, but his voice was calm. We're already deeper than most alien species have ever gone, but our systems are holding perfectly. At 500 meters deep, they encountered something that made them all gasp. A creature that looked like a flying carpet made of light was gliding through the water below them. It was easily 50 meters wide, and its entire body rippled with patterns of blue and green luminescence. "I'm detecting complex electrical activity," Heywan said, studying her instruments. "This thing might actually be intelligent." The massive creature seemed to notice their submarine. It changed direction and began swimming alongside them, its light patterns shifting to match the rhythm of their engines. For several minutes it kept pace with them, as if studying these strange visitors to its world. "It's trying to communicate," Minho realized. "Look at how its light patterns change every time we adjust our speed." But then the creature made a sound that they could hear even inside their sealed submarine. It was a deep, musical tone that seemed to vibrate through the water itself. Almost immediately, other creatures began responding from all directions. The ocean filled with answering calls, a symphony of alien voices welcoming the newcomers. "We're not alone down here," Eugen said quietly. "This whole ocean is alive with intelligence." They continued their descent, passing through layers of different creatures. At 1,000 meters, they found forests of plant-like organisms that swayed in the current like underwater trees. Strange fish with too many eyes darted between the branches, while creatures that looked like floating flowers drifted overhead. At 1,500 meters, they reached their target depth. Here, on a flat area of the ocean floor, they would build humanity's first permanent base on an alien water world. "Beginning construction of Research Station Alpha," Eugen announced, deploying the automated building systems. As they worked, none of them noticed the massive shapes moving in the deeper trenches far below. Ancient creatures larger than anything Earth had ever produced were stirring in the depths. They had been sleeping for centuries, but the arrival of these strange new beings had awakened something that had been waiting in the darkness for a very long time. The ocean around them pulsed, with new energy, as if the entire world was coming alive to greet its unexpected guests. 3 months had passed since the humans first descended into the waters of Kepler 438c, and their world had changed completely. Where once there had been only empty ocean, now 2 amazing cities sparkled in the depths. New Atlantis sat like a jewel on the ocean floor, its glass domes filled with warm light and bustling human activity. Benthic Station floated at a middle depth, connected to the first city by clear tubes that snaked through the water like glowing serpents. Dr. Song. Heywan swam through one of these connecting tunnels, her breathing equipment allowing her to move freely through the water. She had become the colony's expert on the strange creatures that filled this alien ocean, and today she was more excited than ever before. "Captain Lee Ji-hoon, you need to see this immediately." She spoke into her communicator as she reached the main research laboratory. The colony's commander was a calm man who rarely showed surprise, but when he saw what Heywan had discovered, his eyes went wide. On the laboratory's main screen, patterns of light danced in complex sequences. They looked almost like music made visible, with waves of blue and gold flowing across the display in perfect rhythm. "What am I looking at?" Ji-hoon asked, studying the beautiful patterns. "Communication," Heywan replied, barely able to contain her excitement. "For weeks I've been recording the light patterns made by the large creatures in the deep trenches. At first I thought it was just random bioluminescence, but then I noticed something incredible." She pressed a button and the patterns changed, becoming more complex and organized. "These aren't random lights, Captain. This is language. The creatures down there are talking to each other, and they've been trying to talk to us. Ji-hoon leaned forward, fascinated. You mean the big creatures we've been seeing are intelligent? More than intelligent, Haewon said, her voice full of wonder. They're ancient. From what I can tell, they've been living in these oceans for millions of years. They call themselves the Leviathans, and they've been watching us since the day we arrived. She showed him recordings from their underwater cameras. Massive shapes moved in the deepest parts of the ocean, creatures so large that their full size was hard to understand. They looked like living mountains covered in patterns of light that pulsed and shifted constantly. How did you figure out their language? Ji-hoon asked. Haewon smiled. I remembered something from Earth. Whales and dolphins use sound patterns to communicate, but these creatures use light instead. Once I realized that, I started looking for patterns in their displays. It took weeks, but I finally found the key. She activated a new device she had built, something that could translate human words into the light patterns the Leviathans used. I've been having conversations with them, Captain. Real conversations. As if summoned by her words, the laboratory's lights dimmed and the water outside began to glow. A massive shape approached the research station, so large that it blocked out everything else. Patterns of light flowed across its surface like slow lightning. That's Elder Kethara, Haewon explained. She's one of their leaders. She wants to meet you. Ji-hoon felt his heart racing as he put on his diving gear. Swimming out to meet a creature the size of a building was not something he had ever imagined doing, but as he left the safety of the research station and swam toward the massive being, he felt no fear. The light patterns flowing across the Leviathan's surface were gentle and welcoming. The creature's voice came not as sound, but as vibrations through the water that seemed to speak directly to his mind. Welcome, small swimmers, the ancient being said. We have watched your kind with great interest. You are the first surface dwellers to treat our realm with respect instead of fear. We are honored to meet you, Ji-hoon replied through Haewon's translation device. Your ocean is more beautiful than anything we imagined. Elder Kethara's light patterns shifted to what Haewon had learned was the equivalent of laughter. Our ocean? No, small one. This is now your ocean too. You have proven yourselves worthy of the deep places. Over the following days, more Leviathans came to visit the human colonies. They shared incredible knowledge that had been hidden in the depths for ages. They showed the humans how ocean currents connected not just different parts of the planet, but different planets across the galaxy. These natural channels could carry messages faster than any radio signal, creating a communication network that spanned the stars. The surface dwellers never knew, explained another Leviathan elder. They feared the water, so they never discovered the deep roads that connect all ocean worlds. But you humans are different. You listen to the water instead of fighting it. The Leviathans taught the humans how to use these current roads to send messages to other water worlds across the galaxy. Soon the human colonies were in contact with ocean civilizations on dozens of planets, species that the Galactic Council had never even known existed. Back on Centauri Prime, the Council members received reports that made no sense to them. Not only were the humans surviving on the forbidden water worlds, they were thriving. Even more impossible, they seemed to be establishing trade routes through space in ways that should have been physically impossible. Counselor Zethmore's crystal form flickered with worry as he read the latest intelligence reports. The humans are doing something that violates everything we know about space travel, he told the other council members. They're sending messages and cargo between water worlds faster than light speed, but they're not using any technology we recognize. Admiral Thexkar's scales turned a troubled shade of green. Perhaps we have underestimated this young species once again. 6 months had passed since the first human submarine had touched the waters of an alien world, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Captain Lee Dongmin stood in the crystal chamber of Centauri Prime once more, but this time he was not alone. Floating beside him were 3 shimmering holographic figures that made every alien in the council chamber gasp with amazement. The first hologram showed a creature that looked like a living coral reef, its body made of countless small organisms that worked together as one mind. This was Elder Zaralin of the Reef Builders, a species that had been constructing underwater cities for 10,000 years. The second hologram displayed a being that seemed to be made of flowing water itself, constantly shifting and changing shape. This was current singer Velmoth, a representative of the thermal dancers who lived near underwater volcanoes and spoke through the very heat of the planet's core. But it was the third hologram that made the strongest impression on the gathered aliens. Elder Cathara of the Leviathans was so massive that only her head could fit in the holographic display. Her ancient eyes held wisdom that seemed older than the stars themselves, and patterns of light flowed across her skin like slow music. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Captain Lee began, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. 6 months ago, you warned us that water worlds were death traps that would destroy our colonies. Today, I stand before you with representatives of 3 great civilizations that have thrived in the depths for millions of years. Admiral Thexkar's green scales had turned almost white with shock. This is impossible. Our best scientists have studied these worlds for centuries. There was no sign of intelligent life. Elder Cathara's hologram pulsed with gentle light patterns that the translation system converted to words. Surface dweller, your people never looked deep enough. You feared the crushing depths where we make our homes. Your ships barely scratched the surface before fleeing in terror. Commander Veltara clicked her mandibles nervously. But our instruments, our scanners, they would have detected large life forms. Current singer Velmoth's watery form rippled with what might have been laughter. Your scanners look for heat signatures and electrical patterns like your own technology. We thermal dancers live in the planet's volcanic vents, where our life signs blend with the natural heat of the world. Your instruments saw us as part of the geology, not as living beings. Elder Zaralin of the Reef Builders added in a voice, like wind through underwater caves. My people build our cities from living coral that grows and changes. To your scanners, we appeared to be natural formations, not constructed habitats. The council chamber buzzed with confused and worried sounds as the aliens tried to understand what they were hearing. The bird delegate from Skyreach ruffled his feathers in distress. If these civilizations have existed for so long, why did they never contact us? Elder Cathara's ancient eyes seemed to look directly at each council member. We tried, young flyer. Many times our people rose to the surface to greet the ships that came to our worlds, but every time the visitors fled in panic. Your people saw only monsters in the depths, not potential friends. Captain Lee activated another holographic display that showed the incredible network the humans had discovered. These civilizations have been connected for millions of years through ocean currents that carry information faster than light. While the surface galaxy has been divided into separate species and territories, the deep civilizations have been sharing knowledge and culture across vast distances. The display showed current maps that connected dozens of water worlds, creating a communication network that spanned half the galaxy. Trade routes that had been impossible for surface dwellers became simple highways for creatures that understood how to ride the deep currents. This changes everything, whispered Counselor Zethmore, his crystal form flickering rapidly. We've been exploring only half the galaxy. The other half has been hidden beneath the waves. Dr. Kim So-ra, who had been quietly studying the Council's reactions, stepped forward. The deep civilizations have technologies we've never imagined. The reef builders can grow living ships that repair themselves. The thermal dancers harness volcanic energy in ways that make our power systems look primitive, and the Leviathans store knowledge in biological computers that have been running for millions of years. But how do you humans fit into all this? Asked the old Zephyrian delegate, his wrinkled face showing genuine curiosity instead of fear, for the first time. Captain Lee smiled. We became the bridge. The deep civilizations needed someone who could travel between the surface and the depths. We became their ambassadors to the galaxy above, just as they became our teachers in the worlds below. Elder Kethara's light patterns shifted to show approval. The humans are the first surface dwellers to show proper respect for the deep places. They do not try to conquer the water, but learn to live with it. They listen to the ocean's voice, instead of trying to silence it. The council chamber fell silent as the full impact of this revelation sank in. Species that had avoided water worlds for millions of years suddenly realized they had been missing half of all possible knowledge. and trade opportunities. Admiral Thexkar stood up slowly, his voice heavy with the weight of changing history. By the authority of the Galactic Council, we officially recognize the deep civilizations as equal members of the galactic community. And we name humanity as the official ambassadors of the deep, with full rights to negotiate between surface and ocean peoples. Current singer Velmoth's watery form sparkled with joy. The deep currents sing of a new age beginning. Surface and depth united at last. In the human colonies far below alien seas, children like young Park Soo-bin and Kim Tae-young played with young leviathans, learning to speak in patterns of light while their parents worked alongside ancient beings to build a future where the galaxy's greatest fears had become its newest frontiers.